Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Book Reviews. My guest today is Sagheer Afzal. He's the author of The Reluctant Mullah, and he's all the way from Peterborough. And to tell us more about his novel, I'd like to give a warm welcome to Sagheer. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you
And
very much for having me here.
you're welcome, and it's great to have a science teacher as a novelist.
Well, thank you, thank you,
I
thank
think
you.
it's great. So, can you tell me a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, I was born in this country. I spent my formative years in Luton, and then my parents moved from there to Hitchin, and then finally from Hitchin to Peterborough. So I went to Salford University to study physics. Then I did an MSc in optics at Kent University. Then I tried to become rich by going into IT, and I failed miserably. So after about
Right.
5 years, when I left IT impoverished, I then went into teaching. And then in about my first year of teaching, that's when I decided to commence writing a novel.
Okay, because your novel is called The Reluctant Mullah, and it was published in 2010. I read a short description about that. It says, the clock is ticking for Musa. He has 30 days to escape an arranged marriage. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, so my novel is based around the protagonist Musa, who is a young mullah, but he's a mullah with a difference because he himself feels a clash with his peers because he doesn't want to be just a mindless automaton regurgitating the words of his elders. He wants to think for himself. He wants to rediscover Islam for himself, and that brings him into diametric opposition with a lot of the people around him. So he is very much torn, not finding solace within his religion. But on top of it, he has, as I think many Asians do, this sword hanging over his head, saying as soon as possible he must find a bride. He must find a bride. I think nowadays, or I definitely was for many people of my generation, almost a rites of passage. That time when you have to, when there's family pressure to get married, to find a bride, and then you don't want to go down their road, and so that causes a lot of conflict. So my character Musa then is drawn into another type of conflict with his own personal life, which amplifies the distress that he's feeling within his own religious life.
I see. I mean, why did you particularly choose about a mullah? I know when people think about a mullah, they're very religious. They can be quite strict. Why particularly did you decide to write a novel about a mullah?
Well, it was based upon my own experiences at university. In university, I spent time with a lot of Islamic groups, and I left each Islamic group feeling very disenchanted, very disillusioned, because I felt that these people were very dogmatic. They were very insular in their outlook, and because of their own myopic view of Islam, I felt at times they were precluding more people from Islam than including people. So I thought it would be interesting to have somebody who, from that background, somebody somebody who's pious, but who has a different definition of piety within his own mind. He doesn't view piety as simple, mindless adherence to a long list of do's and don'ts. But he wants to rediscover the beauty of Islam for himself, but he can't find a way to do so simply because he's come from a culture in which it is inculcated into him and his contemporaries that you must always listen and obey. Just be like an angel. You must not question or think for yourself. So I thought having that kind of internal drama within the protagonist would add a degree of depth to my novel.
I see, because you yourself went to a madrasah, didn't you, in
Yes,
Dewsbury?
yeah, many years ago.
Right, so did you sort of get some experience from that, an idea for your novel?
Yes, yeah, I met many characters there,
Yes.
what struck me was that a lot of people I met there were very young, they were very idealistic, they were very impassioned, and subsequently a lot of them did become Hafizes and Alims. And when I reconnected with them some 14, 15 years later, because I spent about 2 odd weeks in Dewsbury during my second year at university, and I met some of my old friends, what struck me was how much they had changed, how much they had seemed to lose the affability and friendliness. They became very stern, very austere, very prim,
Yes.
a very prim type of person. And I was always almost taken aback by how much their personality had been eclipsed by their Islamic studies,
I see.
which made me think that Islam is a way of life, but I'm not so
Yes.
sure that Islam should eclipse your life.
Absolutely.
So, and I
Absolutely.
think there is maybe kind of a subtle paradox within that notion.
I
And
see.
so that's what made me, I think, when I decided to
Mm.
write my novel, it drew on me what would it have been like if these people had retained their own personality,
Mm.
but also had still kept some of the same passion they had for their religion.
Absolutely. And I think that's the characteristics of a mullah. As I said before, it's, stern, sort of
Yeah,
strict,
absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people have this
Yes.
stereotype
Yes.
of
Yes.
a mullah, somebody who abstains from laughter, from gaiety,
Yes.
someone
Yes.
who is just a denizen of a bunch of rules and regulations, someone who can recite endless hadiths, who is an expert on Sharia law, but not
Hmm.
somebody who would actually go up into a street and say, give them a high five, or just exchange
Yes.
just pleasantries with.
Yes. I think that's changing now.
Yeah, it does.
In a
It does
sense.
seem to be. I do see
Yes.
now a lot of young people now who are emerging from Islamic centres.
Mm.
They are definitely more charismatic and more affable than maybe a lot of their predecessors were. Yes,
Yes.
but I
Yes.
mean, and I think they're better at now at connecting with the youngsters than maybe they were when I was their age. That is definitely true.
Yes. Yes. And what kind of feedback have you had about your book? I mean, have any mullahs actually read your novel? Have you
No,
found?
no, no, no. Sadly, not actually. To my great disappointment, I was once turned down for an interview at an Islamic school because
Oh,
somebody had read the blurb of my novel and decided they didn't like it.
really?
so
Oh, what a
so I
shame.
was actually
Yeah.
refused a possible job offer. This was an Islamic school in
I
Luton,
see.
and so I was a bit taken aback, a bit dismayed by that response. But I think a few people have had that kind of negative reaction to it because a lot of
Yes.
people think that if you're satirizing culture,
Yes. Yes.
so if you're satirizing Pakistani culture, they think that you're denigrating Islam. They don't
I see.
understand that
Yes.
that there is a dichotomy between religion and culture. So I think a few people have had that erroneous idea that I have ridiculed Islam. But for the vast majority of people, I've done about 110 book signings, and
Right.
on the most part, it's been overwhelmingly positive. I've sold out every book signing every Warstones book signing that I've been to. I've sold out, and I've had some very heartwarming responses as well. One person in Bradford, an English woman, she actually wrote me a letter saying that her neighbours wear the niqab, and because of my book, she understands them better and doesn't feel as much antipathy towards them had she not read my book,
I
which I thought was a
see.
very, very nice, positive response.
Amazing. Yes. Yes. I mean, again, novels can educate people, so I think
They do, but you've got to have the
yes,
mindset to
absolutely.
allow that to
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
If you read a novel with an insular, myopic mindset, you won't
Yes.
gain it. You won't gain anything from it.
Yes. No. Absolutely. And apart from your novel writing, you're a science teacher, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. I mean, did you apply any science to your novels at all?
Not
Sorry, I
really,
have to
not
ask.
really, not really. It was well, at the time when I was writing my novel, I was actually teaching ICT. I'm a science teacher now. I was actually teaching ICT in a secondary school, and it was a very turbulent school, and it was a very exhausting process because I would spend 9 to 3 trying to subdue these tumultuous classes, and then when I'd come home at about 4 o'clock, I would be emotionally exhausted. But then I would have to just then summon the energy to write. And so then I would write until maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes even later, and then carry on doing the same job. So that was a very, very exhausting process. I'm not
Yes.
so sure I could do it
Absolutely.
again. But it was something I was very passionate about, and I found that because I
Yes.
was passionate about it, my very passion energized me to do my writing.
See, have any of your pupils read your book?
Well, actually, recently, a few of my pupils did become aware that I was an author, and I remember it all happened all of a sudden. Moment about 3 4 weeks ago, I had a bunch of pupils burst into my room and say, "Sir, have you written a book? Have you written a book? Have you written a book?
Right.
Have you written a book?" And
Okay. So
I
you
said,
didn't actually
"Yes."
go out and
No,
tell
no,
them.
no, no. I
Okay.
didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't even say at the interview when I got my job that I was an author. But
Oh,
word
yes.
spread around, and everybody was saying, "Sir, I saw you on YouTube." Yeah, I saw you on YouTube.
Right.
And to
Okay.
my horror, I looked on YouTube, and there were a bunch of comments from my pupils saying, "Oh, I thought you were a science teacher, sir. Yeah, nice one, sir. Ha ha ha.
Right.
Check that
Yes.
face out. Ha ha."
Oh, that's
so, so
amazing.
that did
Yeah.
cause some degree of consternation
Yeah.
amongst my staff. I think because I don't think it's I don't think the schools view that favourably if one teacher gains that kind of notoriety.
I see. I
But
see.
but
I
yeah,
mean, you're still an author in itself, and
yes,
it's not easy to become an author.
no, it isn't.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, how long did it take you to get it published?
You know, the irony is the fact that I actually got published in a very atypical way. I sent off a bunch of letters with a sample chapter by purchasing the Readers and Writers Manual with a bunch of publishers. I sent off a letter and a first chapter to just 10, and one of them was Hellman Publishers, who then contacted me. So I got published. I found a publisher very quickly, but then afterwards it just became much more difficult
Yes,
because
absolutely.
I had to
Yes.
go through many rewrites, editing. I had to delete chapters, and I remember feeling towards the end of the whole process that I thought to myself, it doesn't feel like it's my novel anymore because it's undergone so many transformations. I had to change my first chapter 3 times because the original title of my book wasn't even The Reluctant Mullah, it was The Holy Aubergine,
All
which
right. I
came from a
see.
true story,
I
which I
see.
learned at the madrasah. Like one person in a madrasah, he cut off an aubergine and he found the name of Allah written across the aubergine,
Yes.
and
Yes.
he went to tell the mufti about this. But on the way, he got into an argument with someone and got so vexed that he squashed the aubergine.
Oh, I
so,
see.
so I thought that would
Ah,
make a great backdrop, a great title to the
yes.
novel. But my publishers thought that it's too satirical, it's
Yes.
going to
Yes.
draw too much anger and derision. So I had to change my first chapter 3 times,
I
even
see.
before
Yes.
they were actually decided to give me a publishing contract. So yeah,
Yes.
it is a very difficult
It
process.
is, and they know best, what sells and what people like
Yeah, well,
reading.
at that
So,
time I didn't
yes,
agree with them, but in retrospect, I have to say, you have to listen to them.
yes, absolutely,
Because at that
absolutely.
time I thought that I'm the writer, I know my community, and this won't offend them. But in hindsight, I can say I'm glad I did listen to them.
I see. No, that's very interesting. And who's your favourite author? I mean, who's really
My
inspired
favourite
you?
author is Tom Wolfe and his, I think, magnum opus, Bonfire of the Vanities, because I thought that was a fantastic book. The dialogue was razor sharp, it was satirical, it was engaging, and it also had some very profound points about it. And it was a novel of about 700 pages, and unusually for novels of that length, it kept you hooked right from the beginning to the end. And and in his subsequent novels, I don't
Mm.
think were of that same quality. But that is definitely one novel that I reread many times, because the whole idea of having like fast-paced, the pace of a novel, having razor-sharp dialogue, having lively characters, that I imbibed many of those ideas when I was writing The Reluctant Mullah.
Yes, and it's true to say you have to read to be able to write. So,
Absolutely, yeah, but
yes,
not
yes,
many people know, and I think they tell you this in a
yes,
lot of writer
mm,
workshops. That it's one thing just reading books. You've got to have an author who you reread over and over again, and
absolutely,
because
yes.
that is I think a lot of favorite authors do. Like J.K. Rowling reread no, sorry, was it J.K. Rowling reread I've forgotten the name now, Gollum, those novels, J.G. Ballard, was it? Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Reread those novels many times
okay.
before she was able to embark upon the
Yes,
Harry Potter series.
yes, I see. No, that's very interesting to know. And apart from writing and apart from your teaching, what else do you like doing in your
There
spare
is
time?
sadly no time left. I try to go to the gym 3 times a week.
You don't have a social life.
No, not much. No, no,
Oh, what a
no,
shame!
no,
What a
no. The
shame.
only social life I have is when I'm at the gym, when I'm
Yes, yes,
working out, or when I'm just luxuriating in the jacuzzi. There are many
yes,
people to chat to.
yes.
Many
You need
people
to
who,
let off your
there are many
steam.
people
So,
who unburden me with their life stories when I'm in the
okay.
jacuzzi. Yes, so even just about 2 weeks ago, this one gentleman in the jacuzzi, he started divulging his life story to me, and he told me he had lupus, which is quite serious. And I remember he got very emotional when he was telling me this story, and to my horror, I just said, "Do you mind turning the button on because the bubbles have stopped?"
Okay.
So I
Ah,
think
okay.
he was very taken aback by that.
Yes. Oh
But
no,
you see, you
absolutely.
always
Yes.
find
Yes.
these very interesting
Yes.
characters in
Absolutely.
all sorts of
Yes.
places.
And I think you also mentioned off camera about Kindle books.
Yes,
Is your book on Kindle?
it is
Is
on
it?
Kindle. I
Okay.
myself do not have a Kindle because I think I was speaking to a Waterstones manager who's a friend of mine, and she told me that Kindle sales have actually plateaued because a lot of parents don't want their kids to spend any more time in front of a screen, because kids now are spending so much time in front. They're spending watching the iPads. When they're not on an iPad, they're on a laptop, and a lot of parents feel it's detrimental for their children to actually use another screen just for their kids, just so their kids can read. So,
You're absolutely right.
yes,
I have to
I
agree.
mean, I personally, I'm a great fan of Kindles. I think they have revolutionised self-publishing. There's definitely no doubt about it. A lot of authors would have just faded away into obscurity had it not been for the Kindle. But I personally just prefer a normal paperback. I've never
Yes.
really been a great fan of just using a technological device to read.
I agree, because with a book, you can look at pages from
Yes,
before and
yes.
after, and I think with a
Yeah,
Kindle, you're having to
yeah, and
find.
exactly. You can't even
Yeah.
annotate
No,
on
you
the Kindle, which is
can't.
interestingly
No.
one of the reasons why Bill Gates himself doesn't have a Kindle, because he said there's no facility for annotation on a Kindle.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's really interesting to know. And you're writing another book.
I'm indeed, yeah.
Yes.
I've written a novel called Homeland, which is about the character Danyal Raja, who's the son of a suicide bomber, and the novel deals with how he's struggling to come to terms with his father's actions, and the type of reaction he receives within his local community, and the trauma that he and his family experience as a result of his father's action.
I see. How did you get that idea, or was it something that you were told to write? Or
No,
no?
it just I had an idea in
Okay.
my mind for
Yeah.
a while, because I wanted to write a novel from the perspective of a young adult, and I thought it would be interesting to write it from that kind of perspective, because at this time, in this day and age, there's a lot of negative publicity about Islam, and
Yes.
about
Yes.
most definitely those particular type of Islamists who blow themselves up. So I thought it'd be interesting to just maybe portray that whole dilemma from the point of view of a young child. So yes, so
That's
that
very
is now
interesting.
with my
Yes.
agent, who is trying in all earnest to find a publisher for it.
Yes, and hopefully you'll be very successful and find a
Yes,
publisher.
inshallah,
Yes,
inshallah,
yes.
yes.
These things take time, but I'm
They
sure your
do take
publishers know.
time. It's a very
Yes,
haphazard process. It's not
it is.
governed by any type of logic.
No.
Sometimes it's just a matter of luck.
Absolutely,
Sometimes
absolutely.
it's just a matter of luck. I mean, it always used to amaze me when I used to read these profiles of famous other authors like Zadie Smith, Monica Ali, Gautam Malkani. They just sent off a sample chapter, and within weeks they got a huge publishing bonus, which propelled them into literary stardom. But unfortunately, that's the exception rather than the rule.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, because it does take years.
It takes tenacity.
Yes,
It takes
yes,
perseverance.
it does. It
And
does.
you've got to be, you've got to have a very thick skin.
Yes,
You
yes,
know, because I mean, I got a lot of rejections,
yes.
a lot of negative comments. But it's if you believe in what you're doing, then I think your self belief propels you to move forward.
Absolutely. It only takes just that one person to say yes, and your
Absolutely,
life
absolutely,
changes.
absolutely true.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I can totally relate
Yeah, it's a
to you
very
with
much
that.
an innate thing, because
Yes,
I've come across a lot of authors or a lot of people who want to write just for the kudos of being known as a writer, not
yes,
so much
yes.
because they believe passionately in what they're doing. And I think those people will always maybe falter and fail. But unfortunately, they make it harder for those people who do feel they have genuine stories to tell.
Absolutely, I
And
totally
but
agree. Yes,
it's the way it is. It's always been, I think, the fact that only a tiny percentage of writers are successful.
yes, and you really have to be passionate for it to show in your writing as well. Yes,
Absolutely, absolutely.
yes,
Because there is, I think, a plethora of books which are not high in quality, which follow a specific type of genre, which are, if you like, glorified screenplays, and which are there just so the author can just make money, because it's ticking all the boxes. It's action, it's rom-com, and it is always amazing me how many people have made so much money writing about people who drink blood.
yes,
So,
yes.
so,
It's true.
but you see, that type of genre
Yes,
publishers want. Publishers, unfortunately, want money makers, so they're looking for a specific type of format.
yes.
So, but
It's all about money at the
yeah,
end of
yeah,
the day.
yes,
You know, it's a
absolutely,
business.
absolutely. I
Yes,
think middle
it's
list
true.
authors or literary type authors, they're now slowly being pushed to the back,
Yes,
which I think is unfortunate. But it's like everything; everything is governed by the dictates of commerciality.
it's true. And when some people think you're an author, they think you're raking in it as well. So,
They do, they do, they do, they
but
do.
it's a lot of hard work to be able to just sell a few copies. You know, you actually have to go out there and promote your book and
Yeah, well,
talk to people.
when I did
So
my, I mean, I've done 110 book signings in Waterstones branches all across the
that's very
country,
impressive. Yeah.
and I never got for the first year, because I was to go every Saturday. I was at a different Waterstones for 2 years in a row, and for the first year, I never got any travelling expenses. I did it totally off my own. I totally funded all of my own travelling.
Yes, yes.
And it never. I would apply. I was never troubled by it. It never dawned on me that I'm spending more money in travel than I will be getting in royalties, because I wanted my book to be known. I
Yes,
didn't want my
yes,
book to
absolutely.
fade away
Yes.
into oblivion. So it was necessary. I enjoyed it. I had a great response. So yeah, but you have to invest your own effort and your own money to do that.
You're absolutely right about that. No, exactly. It's been absolutely amazing to hear your story, and you've got a website and a Facebook page, haven't you? So
Yes, I do have a
yes.
Facebook page. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to tell the viewers about your Facebook page? Or
Yeah, it's just a very simple page. We just got the caption of my of a
yes,
photograph of my novel on it, which some people thought was very self-serving at that time. But I would rather people look at my book than at my face.
okay,
I think the cover of my book is more attractive.
yes, no. I mean, we can tell our viewers to please go on Facebook and
Yes,
they'll
yes.
find it there. That's fantastic. So, well, thank you very much for talking
No,
to me
thank you very much
today.
for inviting me.
And I'm wishing you all the best for your second novel.
Thank you very much.
We'll look out for that. So, thank you. And I'd like to end the show with a famous quote by Margaret Atwood: "A word after a word after a word is power." So I'd like to thank my guest today, Sagheer, for coming on to my show. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.